All right, chapter 3, we are talking about lines and angles this chapter, more specifically different types of lines and different types of angle pairs. And by the end of the video, you should be able to identify parallel, perpendicular, and skew lines, as well as identify the angles formed by two lines and a transversal. These are called angle pairs. Okay, so to start off, some of these you may have already heard about before. Parallel lines are lines that never touch. They are coplanar. Remember that word coplanar. Co means together, planar means surface, so that means that they're on the same surface, or yeah, plane. And we have a shortcut for parallel lines. It looks like an 11, so whenever you see the number 11, that really means parallel. So parallel lines you can think of like railroad tracks. They never ever meet, so they look like this. Perpendicular lines do touch. They intersect, or they touch at exactly 90 degrees, or a right angle. And we have a shortcut for perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines look something like this. So to an abbreviation for perpendicular, rather than writing this really long word, we put an upside down T. So I'm just putting, what are those called again? Parentheses, so you know that these are all shortcuts. Okay, and then let's see, skew lines. Skew lines, maybe we haven't heard about those before. Skew lines are also lines that never touch, but they're different from parallel lines. They don't have to look like this. They never touch because they're on different surfaces. They're on different planes. And then parallel planes are surfaces or planes that never touch. Okay, so let me give you an example. Skew lines and parallel lines, planes, excuse me, we have to start talking, rather than two-dimensional things, we have to talk about three-dimensional things. So let's say I drew a box. There's my lovely box. Okay, let's imagine that this is your Kleenex box. Okay, parallel planes would be planes that never ever meet. So for example, the top of this Kleenex box and the bottom of your Kleenex box, there's my, those dashed lines are lines that are in the back, so you can't see them. So the top and the bottom would both be parallel planes. Okay, so those are examples of parallel planes. Skew lines, however, skew lines, going back to skew lines, they're lines that never touch because they're on different surfaces. So now we have a three-dimensional figure. We can say, okay, this line over here at the back of our Kleenex box, and let's see, this line right here, these lines will never touch. These lines are skew lines because they will never touch. They look like it my two-dimensional figure, but in 3 dimensions, if you're talking about your Kleenex box, they'll never ever meet. And I'll show you this in class. So the first thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be identifying different types of lines and planes. So I'll do one with you, and then 2 you're going to do on your own. So do before class tomorrow. Okay. So let's see, number 1, it says identify a pair of parallel segments. Now, I want you to notice in this picture, this house of cards, all these arrows. They kind of look like tick marks, but they're not really tick marks. They're arrows. The arrows represent parallel lines. And remember, I'm going to use that 11 instead of writing out parallel. So what that means is I can look for anything with that, with this double arrow, and those will be all parallel. Notice I had to do double arrows as opposed to single arrows because all the ones that have single arrows are parallel to each other, but these yellow lines, they aren't parallel to these black lines, which is why you had to put a double arrow. So I'm going to pick the double arrow because I think they look cooler. So to name a line, we need two lines, right? 2 points. So NS could be the name of this line segment is parallel to another line segment. I could pick any of these 3 lines. They're parallel they're parallel to this line and this line. So I'm going to say MR. They're not parallel to QL because QL is on an entirely different surface than NS. See how MR is on this surface? What is that, the 3 of spades? So since they're on the same surface, we could say that they're parallel. This one isn't on the same card as NS, so that would be skew. So we can go ahead and we can write that down for skew if we want to. NS, and we didn't have a shortcut, so you had to literally write the skew to QL. Let's see, I can give you another example of skew lines. Skew lines, let's see, QR. QR, there's that line segment, and KP. These lines will never intersect. If you're talking about the three-dimensional figure, these lines are skew, they will never intersect, but they're not parallel, so that's why we call them skew. Okay, perpendicular segments, let's say I wanted to talk about my QR still. Perpendicular means that they meet at right angles, so I could say QL and QR are perpendicular. QL is perpendicular to QR. And notice how I showed you that in my picture is I put these little right boxes. These little red boxes mean that they meet at 90-degree angles. Okay, and then the last one, parallel planes. Let's see, planes are surfaces, so now we have to talk about more than 2 points. We have to talk about 3 points and only 3 points. So I'm going to talk about those 2 parallel planes. To name this parallel plane, you just need to pick any 3 points. So I'm going to say MLQ, so plane MLQ is parallel to plane, and then same thing over here, pick 3 points, SPK. There's obviously lots of answers, you just need to identify one. So 2, you're going to do 2 as well, so you can pause the video if you need to. Same concepts. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is, let's see how much time has passed. Sweet. Next thing I want to talk about are angle pairs. So when I say classify angle pairs, I'm gonna be talking about these 4 things specifically. We've already talked about lots of angle pairs already. Vertical angles are angle pairs. Adjacent angles are angle pairs. What else? Linear pair are angle pairs. Complementary, supplementary, these are all different types of angle pairs. So now we're adding on to this list. Pair again means 2, so we're talking about 2 different types of angles that have this relationship. And I don't think I drew, did you guys have this on your paper? No, yours looks a little bit different. So will you go ahead and fill in these numbers for, fill in these numbers on your paper because yours is blank. Transversal is a line that intersects, so it hits 2 or more lines. So again, I realize your notes are a little bit different than mine, but same problems. Okay, so in I'm going to highlight the transversal for you. This is our transversal. See how it intersects these other 2 lines. And these other lines look parallel. They do not have to be parallel. In fact, for the most part, we're not going to be talking about parallel lines in this section, but then we only talk about parallel lines in the next section. So we have all these angles filled in. Corresponding angles are angles that are in the same spot. That's like the easiest thing I could say to you. So what does that mean? That means it's on the same side of the transversal, and it's on the same side of the other lines. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to talk about angle 1, notice there's my transversal still. See how it's above the transversal? Well, this other angle has to be above the transversal as well. So already we've eliminated half of the angles. Now it's in the same of the other line. So notice on this other line, it's to the left. So if we look at this line, it also has to be to the left. It has to be above and to the left. So angle 3 would be corresponding angles. So I'm going to write angle 1, angle 1 and angle 3. Those are corresponding angles. So write that down, angle 1 and angle 3. Okay. Some more corresponding angles. Let's see, angle 7 and angle 5. Notice how angle 7 is below the transversal, as is angle 5, and it's to the right of the line, as is angle 5. So angle 7 and angle 5 would also be corresponding angles. Now I want you to write a big letter for corresponding angles. I want you to write the F, an F, big fat F. And I want you to draw in this side and this side. So draw a big F on your notes. Big, and then I want you to highlight these letters. Corresponding angles will always be in that position. So if you look at this picture and you drew an F, boom, boom. 7 and 5 would be corresponding angles. So corresponding angles, you can think of the letter F. And we'll go over this more in class because I know some of you guys are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, alternate interior angles, I want you to draw a big Z. Alternate angles will always be in these points on our Z. Okay, so to break it down, alternate means that it's on different sides of the transversal. And interior means it's going to be inside those other lines. So if you think about it, okay, here's our transversal. This is still our transversal. See how the space in between those other two lines, that's going to be considered our interior, and the space outside of those lines are going to be considered our exterior. Okay, so if I'm talking about alternate interior angles, I'm automatically just talking about these four angles right here. And let's see, if I had to draw a Z, my Z would look like this. And it's always going to look like this. So angle 3 and angle 7 are going to be alternate interior angles. So angle 3, I'm running out of room. Angle 3 and angle 7. Okay, so again, one's above the transversal, one's below, which is why it's called alternate, and they're both inside those lines, these two lines. So 3 and 7 would have to be. The other ones would be 2 and 6. 2 and 6 are also alternate interior angles. Okay, so we have alternate interior. The next easier one is called alternate exterior angles. Well, it's kind of the same thing. They have to be now on the opposite sides of the transversal, but now in the exterior. So these ones are all the exterior. So let's see. I want you guys to draw the letter H for me, please. And I want you to highlight this one and highlight this one. Alternate exterior angles always look like this. So if I drew that in my picture, I would have an H like this, and then I could have 1 and 5. So notice they're on opposite sides of the transversal. This is still our transversal. One's up, one's down, and then they're outside of these two lines. So they're in the exterior like this. So angle 1 and angle 5. If the other options would be 4 and 8. 4 and 8 are also alternate interior angles. Exterior, excuse me. Okay, last one is same side interior angles. Same side interior angles, we're only talking again about the inside. I want you to draw the letter C, please. And I want you to shade these ones in. They always look like this. So if I was going to draw a C, it would look like this. So 6 and 7 are going to be my same side interior angles. They are on the same side of the transversal, they're both below it, and they're inside, they're in between those two other lines. So 2 and 3 would also be same side interior angles. Now I know that's really, really hard for you guys to see. We're going to work more on this. Fun fact of the video, we'll do the second page tomorrow in class. Fun fact of the video, did you know that your fingernail on the middle finger grows the fastest out of all of your other nails? Yay for the middle finger. Woohoo! All right, have a nice day. Angle pairs. Yay.